the part that doesn't get illustrated is the rest of everything that else happened. They don't tell you the part about, oh yeah, also I failed continuously for 10 years. So I think people at the top should talk more about all the failures they had getting there. That sounds really harsh. Like, tell us how much you failed. My name is Jackson Rao. I make music under the name Kite, and today I'm going to be talking about my EP, which is called Everything. Fuck. What is it called? Nothing Matters, Everything Does. I started as a drummer. I probably have been playing drums since I was maybe 11, so 7 years or so, and I was a drummer for a long time, so I had like a good sense of rhythm, and I had this, what I think was a good foundation for music, because you learn to count music. It's great. And then I started going on to guitar, and production came about when I wanted to record my own stuff, and it sounded fucking horrible. It sounded like shit, and I wanted to make it better. And so the logical conclusion was, how? I think we're gonna start with the drums. I am a drummer, so it's the first instrument I picked up. This isn't a super typical setup because I've got my drums, and then you're like, wait a second, what is all the shit surrounding it? He's not just a drummer, what's going on here? The focal point of everything here, and the most important part for me, is the overheads. So anytime I was recording a song in the EP, it was overheads first. So what do the overheads do? They're the main mics. This is what's gonna capture the whole sound. And then we have, if you can kind of get in here a little bit, we have several mics that are gonna help with the snare sound. The snare is extremely important. Basically, it comes down to kick and snare. Punch was like a big aspect for me. So kick and snare, backbeat was huge. So getting those close mic'd is really important. Also, if you go in front of the kick here, we have a microphone. The kick and snare being close mic is gonna add a lot of punch. I would also have, what's not here right now, is I would have a mid-tom mic, just sort of craned over, pointed right at the mid-tom. And then I have sort of a floor tom mic hidden behind the cymbal. It's all like very close quarters. And then I would also sometimes have room mics in various places. They're not set up now, but I would usually do, I think this adds up to 7, and then I would have an 8th room mic. For example, like the single that you guys will hear called Bowling and Cake actually has a room mic outside of that door in the kitchen with the door closed. So that was actually really fun because I had this all mic'd up, and then I had a microphone outside, door closed, and I was like, what kind of sound is that gonna give me? It's like this really large scale sound. So that's actually incorporated into the song. And that's mic placement. What's really important is picking and getting mics that are gonna do more than one thing. So an example of that would be this guy right here. This is an SM57. You can make a full album with this microphone. That is a guarantee. You can mic an acoustic guitar with this. You can do vocals through this. You can mic a snare drum, which I do. You can mic a kick. You can do so many things with this microphone. It's ridiculous. You play the mics to their strengths, right? The hummingbirds on the overheads are pencil mics. They have a small diaphragm. They're really good at picking up high end. What's high end? Cymbals. You got a big thick ass mic down here. This is a D112. It's big, it's got a big diaphragm. What do you think a big diaphragm does? It's gonna get low end, it's gonna get punch. So you play the mics to their strengths, and then you place them accordingly. In terms of actual placement, it's like, what makes you wanna put the overheads where they are? Well, that's just preference. With the overheads, I kind of, through trial and error, was able to place these mics. I used to have these way up here, and then for the EP, I kind of brought them down more because I found a little bit of a sweet spot in terms of placement. If I am doing a session, I'm having a drummer like hit the snare, I'll actually have him hit the snare, and then I'll be under there, and I'll move the mic around and try and find the sweet spot. So that'll end the mics part of it, and we can go over to sort of the keyboards and the synths that are, for me, kind of a new, like a recent development. For the EP, I kind of used a lot of synths for the very first time. So Any other music I did before that was mostly, it was guitar, it was drums, it was bass, and it was vocals. The first synth I used was the Korg Mini-Log. This guy is super versatile, and it's basically, it's an all-rounder. If I wanted a bass sound, I'd go to this. If I wanted a pad, I'd go to this. I got some pretty weird sounds also off of this guy, and that's just with tinkering with knobs and really at the beginning not knowing what stuff did, what's attack, what's decay, what's like, what is all this stuff and how does it contribute to making the badass sound that's in your head. For this EP, I suddenly started getting these like sort of flashes in my mind of whoa, like there's a sound, like what the fuck is that and how do I get it? And then how do I translate it into the song? And then I was starting to use the synths. So the JX3P, this is a Roland. This is sort of an 80s synthesizer. This is for controlling the actual waves. You can, sine wave, you can change the sound of the synth through this sort of control bay. So I used this a lot. This was mostly for string sounds. Like I would use, they have great patches actually. So like string 1, string 2, these were my main guys on here. After using the Roland, this is polyphonic, meaning I can do actual chords, I can have a bass note, etc. Also, fun fact, the C does not work on this. This key literally does not function. So if I ever had a part where I was like, okay, I need a low C, I'd be like, fuck, okay, so I guess I need a high C, because I literally couldn't use that C. I would also use the Mo Grandmother. This came out last year in 2018, so pretty new addition. All the circuitry is handmade, and it's assembly line style creation process. So everything is, they actually say that it's like everything is technically a little different, but I don't necessarily know if I buy that, but I love the sound of it. It's got a super great analog warm sound. This was like my go-to for bass, so I would use this a lot for creating bass noises. It's monophonic, meaning I've only got one note to play at a time, so you can't do chords. Initially, I actually thought it was polyphonic, and I was like, oh, sweet. And then when it wasn't, I was kind of disappointed. But then I was like, well, it's actually still fucking awesome. And it actually, this is a really cool part about it. It has a spring reverb built into the actual machine. It's a way of getting echo where they use a coil, like a metal coil, and they run audio through the coil, and that is actually in this machine. It's really unusual to have physical reverbs nowadays, and they usually cost a lot of money. So to have that in there is really awesome, and I would actually use that. I'd mix that into the bass sound sometimes, or whatever I was doing. There was always like music around me, so it was almost just natural. And when we were all faced with that question when we're like really young about like, what do you want to do? And everyone's like, I want to be an astronaut or this other bullshit. I sort of just was like, well, what am I kind of good at? And I was actually more like, what do I enjoy? And I was like, well, I like video games, I like music. And then eventually I was like, well, I can't really do video games, but I guess I could do music. It's kind of the only thing I'm good at. And so I decided, why not make a career out of something that you enjoy and that you get fulfillment out of? So that's sort of where the story starts. My name is Jackson Rao. I make music under the name Kite. My new EP, it's going to come out March 1st. It's called Nothing Matters, Everything Dies. I know it's an emo title, but I promise you it's purely ironic. I hope you listen to it, and I hope you enjoy it.
Let me get sick of you before you